My name is Aditi Nagpal Girotra. US President Donald Trump on Tuesday unveiled what is being described as a long-delayed Middle East plan. Standing alongside Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the White House, Trump described the peace plan as historic and a giant step. He also pledged that no Israelis or Palestinians will be uprooted from their homes. Trump essentially proposed a two-state solution. It envisages Jerusalem as Israel's undivided capital. At the same time, he said, the Palestinian capital will be in eastern Jerusalem, where the US will set up its embassy. The plan evoked mixed reactions. While Israeli leaders welcomed the peace plan, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas dismissed it as a conspiracy. Today, in In-Depth, we look at Trump's Middle East peace plan against the backdrop of the Israel-Palestine conflict and Israel-US relations. We also consider what makes Jerusalem so important for both sides. The Trump administration's proposal to bring a solution to the decades-long Israeli-Palestinian conflict has been 3 years in the making, while the White House's 80-page plan calls for a Palestinian state with a capital in East Jerusalem. The blueprint will also permit Israel to extend sovereignty over all major settlement blocks in the West Bank. It will uphold Jerusalem as Israel's undivided capital and require Palestinians to concede far more land to Israel than in the past proposals. Trump characterized his proposal as a win-win for both Israelis and Palestinians, but Palestinians criticized the deal as one-sided.
The conflict between Israel and Palestine has been one of the most protracted ones in the Middle East. On Wednesday, US President Donald Trump sought to resolve one of the world's longest-running conflicts as he presented the Middle East peace plan. Standing alongside Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House, Trump said it was a win-win opportunity for both sides.
My vision presents a win-win opportunity for both sides, a realistic two-state solution that resolves the risk of Palestinian statehood to Israel's security. Today, Israel has taken a giant step toward peace.
Two-state solution where Palestinians will have limited sovereignty over their territory, and the Israelis will give up part of their sovereignty over West Bank. And a truncated state of Palestine would come into existence, basically saying that Israel will get security it wants and Palestinians will get the state they want. Now, this because there have been so many setbacks on the Israeli-Palestinian peace process, and this is seen by some as a major step and by others a complete failure of the American political establishment or American presidency to resolve this conflict.
So what does the peace plan envisage? Jerusalem is to remain Israel's undivided capital. Both Israel and the Palestinians hold competing claims to the city. The Palestinians insist that East Jerusalem, which Israel occupied in the 1967 Middle East War, be the capital of their future state. Trump promised to keep Jerusalem as Israel's undivided capital, but it allows for a Palestinian capital in portions of East Jerusalem. Trump has also proposed an independent Palestinian state, but sets a series of conditions before receiving independence. The Palestinians want an independent state of their own, comprising East Jerusalem as their capital and also comprising West Bank and Gaza. Under Trump's deal, Palestinians could control some 70% of the West Bank. Trump's deal recognizes Israeli sovereignty over West Bank settlements. Since 1967, Israel has built about 140 settlements in the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem, which are home to some 6 lakh Israeli Jews. The settlements are considered illegal under international law. Palestinians want settlements to be removed, while Israel says settlements won't be uprooted and must be brought under Israeli sovereignty. Trump's deal recognizes Israeli sovereignty in the West Bank, but puts a 4-year freeze on the construction of new Israeli settlements. The deal also recognizes the Jordan Valley, which makes up about a third of the occupied West Bank, as part of Israel. The deal refuses Palestinian refugees the right to return to homes lost to Israel in previous conflicts.
On this day, you too have charted a brilliant future for Israelis, Palestinians, and the region by presenting a realistic path to a durable peace.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas dismissed the plans as a conspiracy. West Bank's Ramallah-based government says America was not an honest broker in the region. Palestinian Islamist group Hamas, which controls the Gaza Strip, also rejected the deal. Palestinians fear the deal would pave the way for Israel to annex virtually all the settlements in the West Bank.
Trump ونتنياهو إن القدس ليست للبيع وكل حقوقنا ليست للبيع.
I think what is clear at this stage is that it's a unilateral proposal. Probably Trump has worked it out in consultation with the Israelis, and I think that takes away from at least perceived fairness of the proposal. Palestinians have not been involved at all. They have not been consulted, and they are rightly feeling a little bit miffed, disappointed. In fact, their reaction, if you would have seen, is quite negative. They have rejected the proposal.
The United Nations says it is committed to a two-state solution based on the borders in place before the 1967 war, when Israel seized the West Bank and Gaza. It is noteworthy that Trump had announced in December 2017 to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital and move the US embassy to the city from Tel Aviv. As a result, Palestinians broke off all contacts with the Trump administration. The Arab League will now convene an urgent meeting on the issue on Saturday. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
India, meanwhile, reaffirmed its call for a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and asked both sides to resolve all issues through direct negotiations. Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson Ravish Kumar said, India has been consistently supportive of the Palestinian cause and will continue to follow developments in the region and engage with the parties concerned. Kumar said, I quote, "We reiterate our view that the final status issues should be resolved through direct negotiations between the two parties and be acceptable to both. We urge the parties to engage with each other, including on the recent proposals put forward by the United States, and find an acceptable two-state solution for peaceful coexistence." The story of the birth of the State of Israel is no less interesting. The formation of Israel is considered one of the most important events in modern history. It also gave rise to one of the longest conflicts in today's times, the Israel-Palestine conflict, in which thousands of people have lost their lives while lakhs have been displaced.
There are many complexities in the Israel-Palestine conflict. While some claim that the creation of Israel after the Second World War is the main reason for the conflict, the struggle in the region began much before the Second World War. Muslims, Jews, and Christians, people of all the three faiths, claim their right in the area, as the holy city of Jerusalem holds religious significance for Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. Abraham is the common patriarch of the three religions, and Jerusalem is the city of Abraham. Abraham had two sons, Ismail and Isaac, whose descendants created Islam, Judaism, and Christianity.
Well, it's a long history, conflict-ridden history. As long as as soon as Israel came into existence, it was the argument was that Israel has Israel is occupying territories which actually belong to the Palestinians, and since then Israel has faced this problem of Palestinians trying to make a case that this is their territory which Israel has occupied. And Israel has also looked at Palestinians as a problem for their security. So the terrorism problem, the Islamist radicalization problem that Israel has faced, Israel has been claiming that this owed its existence to the Palestinians, and Palestinians on the other hand have claimed that Israel as a state has not given them their due, that they live as second-class citizens, and they've been demanding their own state. This has been at the cause of the fundamental trouble between the two sides. The world, the international community has recognized that a two-state solution, a viable two-state solution, would perhaps be the most important factor in resolving this conflict. But that viable two-state solution has not yet come about, and including the most recent plan of Mr. Trump is not giving rise to two viable states, especially a viable Palestinian state, and therefore most Palestinians would feel that this is not something that they can accept.
With the advent of Islam, Christian and Jewish population began to disintegrate in Palestine. In the 19th century, religious conflicts among Muslims, Jews and Christians began. The area became the epicenter of struggle between the British and Ottoman empires. Around 65,000 Jews were resettled here from Europe. In 1914, the Arab population was about 5 lakh. Since 1922, this area was under British control, but the struggle of control between Jews and Arabs continued. The Jews were demanding a new country, and in 1917, Britain pledged establishment of Palestine as the national home for the Jewish. With Hitler's rise, troubles increased for Jews in Europe, and they fled the continent. Between 1922 to 1939, over 3 lakh Jews resettled in Palestine, leading to many violent struggles between the Arabs and the migrants. On the 30th of November 1947, the United Nations approved the resolution to divide Palestine between Arabs and Jews. According to the agreement, Britain left its occupation from Palestine on the 15th of May 1948. At midnight on the 15th of May 1948, the State of Israel came into being. The Arab world vehemently protested the formation of Israel as a Jewish nation, but Israel managed to block their opposition with the help of Western nations. Israel occupied large areas of Palestine, forcing lakhs of Palestinians to flee from the newborn nation. This gave rise to a never-ending conflict between Israel and Palestine. This even as Israel continued to expand its territory, reducing Palestine to just Gaza Strip and West Bank. In June 1967, another war was fought between Israel and neighboring Arab countries, including Egypt, that was then known as the United Arab Republic, Jordan and Syria. During this 6-day war, Israel captured the Gaza Strip and the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt, the West Bank from Jordan and the Golan Heights from Syria. In 1969, Yasser Arafat became the chairman of the Palestine Liberation Organization. In 1973, Syria and Egypt attacked Israel to recapture Golan Heights and Sinai Peninsula, but failed. In 1978, Israel and Egypt signed the Camp David Accords to establish peace in the region, but even this failed to bring about peace and stability. In 1982, Israel attacked Lebanon and killed hundreds of Palestinian refugees in Beirut. In the meantime, new Jewish colonies began to settle on Palestinian territory.
You know, the Palestinians, Israelis were, Jews were, they left Palestinian territories, but they always aspired to come back to those territories. In the First World War, Britain made a deal with the World Zionist Organization because the Jews would provide cash funding for the war effort. And this resulted in what is famously called Balfour Declaration, under which British promised that they will facilitate the entry of certain number of Jewish people. And I think after the First World War, when the British and the Allied forces won, they implemented that deal.
In 1987, Palestinians began a fresh struggle for their independence. In 1993, Yasser Arafat signed a peace treaty with the government of Israel in Oslo called the Oslo Accord. The accord provided for the creation of a Palestinian interim self-government that would be responsible for the administration of the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. However, Israel backtracked and refused to consider Palestine as a free country even till today. In the year 2000, Israel occupied a large part of the West Bank. In 2008, thousands of Palestinians were killed in Israeli attack on the Gaza Strip. In 2011, Palestine launched a diplomatic campaign to gain membership in the United Nations for the state of Palestine. The same year, UNESCO admitted Palestine into the organization as a full member. However, the Palestinian struggle for an independent nation is still going on. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
With this, we'll halt in for a quick breather, but we'll be back soon. Stay tuned with us. Welcome back. You're still with us on In Depth. Located on the border of Israel, between the Mediterranean Sea and the Dead Sea, Jerusalem is one of the oldest cities of the world. With its narrow lanes and rich history, Jerusalem connects several religions of the world. Its ancient buildings and monuments tell the countless stories of its glorious culture, which is thousands of years old. Here's a look at the story of Jerusalem.
Jerusalem is the holiest city in Judaism and Christianity and has been the spiritual center of the Jewish people. The king of Israel, David, first established it as the capital of the Jewish nation, and his son Solomon commissioned the building of the first temple in the city. Jerusalem has been formally divided between Israel and Palestine for nearly 70 years, yet changed hands many other times throughout the course of its 5,000-year history.
Well, both consider it their united Jerusalem as their capital cities, and if you recall, Mr. Trump had shifted the US embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, recognizing the Israeli claims over Jerusalem. So in some ways, Jerusalem is symbolic or symptomatic of the larger problem between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Both have made claims over the territory, and at the moment, given America's support for the Israeli case on Jerusalem, the question therefore for the Palestinians is whether they would accept the situation on the ground, which they have made clear that they are not interested in accepting.
Jerusalem is also an important pilgrimage for Christians whose holiest church, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, is established here. There are many other churches here as well. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre contains two of the holiest sites of Christianity, the site where Jesus was crucified and Jesus' empty tomb where he is said to have been buried and resurrected. The third holiest site of Islam is also in Jerusalem. The Dome of the Rock is one of the oldest extant works of Islamic architecture. The site's great significance for Muslims derives from traditions connecting it to the creation of the world and to the belief that the Prophet Muhammad's night journey to heaven started from the rock at the center of the structure. A UNESCO World Heritage Site, it has been called Jerusalem's most recognizable landmark, along with two nearby old city structures, the Western Wall and the Resurrection Rotunda in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre.
Well, Jerusalem is a historic city, and Israelis, of course, for them Jerusalem was the capital. It has the holy temple, the Wailing Wall. Wailing Wall is incidentally the remnant of the foundation or the wall of the where their original temple was, which was destroyed when they were pushed out of that. Even when the Israelis were dispersed throughout the world, their aspiration was to return to Palestine and particularly Jerusalem.
The Western Wall or the Al-Buraq Wall is an ancient limestone wall in the old city of Jerusalem. The wall was originally erected as part of the expansion of the second Jewish temple, which resulted in the encasement of the natural steep hill known to the Jews and Christians as the Temple Mount. The Western Wall is considered holy due to its connection to the Temple Mount. Because of the Temple Mount entry restrictions, the wall is the holiest place where Jews are permitted to pray, though the holiest site in the Jewish faith lies behind it. Of the four retaining walls, the western one is considered to be the closest to the former temple, which makes it the most sacred site recognized by Judaism outside the former Temple Mount Esplanade. The area in front of the wall has the status of a synagogue and must be treated with due respect. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Since Israel's founding in 1948, the United States has stood firmly as its closest ally in the Middle East. Through the years, the United States has forged a deep and unshakable bond with Israel through a multifaceted relationship. In this report, let's tell you about the special relationship that Israel and America share.
On this day,
Israel is America's most reliable partner in the Middle East. For decades, the close relationship between the US and Israel has been a constant feature of American foreign policy. In 1948, the United States was the first to recognize Israel as a state and the first to recognize Jerusalem as its capital in 2017. According to the US Department of State, the US-Israel bilateral relationship is anchored by over $3 billion in foreign military financing annually. In addition to financial support, the US takes part in a high level of exchanges with Israel to include joint military exercises, military research, and also weapons development. Through the Joint Counter-Terrorism Group and a semi-annual strategic dialogue, the US and Israel have enhanced their cooperation in fighting terrorism.
Israel and US relationship continues to be one of the most important ones for Israel, because Israel views America as a very important partner in terms of guaranteeing its security in the Middle East. Israel is surrounded by, which it believes, by its adversaries, and Israel needs big countries like America to support its existence. Americans have had a soft corner for the Israelis, and Americans have been supporting Israelis for the last several decades, since its inception over 7 decades now. And Americans have played an important role in trying to resolve the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. 30 years ago, it was the Oslo peace process that was signed by, put into operation by then President Bill Clinton, signed by Yitzhak Rabin of Israel and PLO leader then. Yasser Arafat. So there has been a relationship there which Americans have tried to push a peace plan and to resolve this conflict.
The United States is Israel's largest single trading partner. It exports diamonds, semiconductors, civilian aircraft, telecommunications equipment and agricultural products to Israel, and imports pharmaceutical products, medicinal equipment, telecommunications equipment and also diamonds. Their direct investment in each other's country is primarily in the manufacturing sector. Both countries have had a free trade agreement since 1985 that serves as the foundation for expanding trade and investment by reducing barriers and promoting regulatory transparency. In order to facilitate economic cooperation, the two countries convene a joint economic development group every year to discuss economic conditions and possible economic reforms for the coming year. They also coordinate scientific and cultural exchanges through the Binational Science Foundation, the Binational Agricultural Research and Development Foundation, and the US-Israeli Education Foundation.
Well, US regards Israel as a very close ally. The military significance of those ties is a matter of conjecture, because I don't think that Israel is a small country of 5 million people, and what kind of weight do they bring onto the global dynamics is debatable. But even within the region, the Middle East dynamics, I don't think that Israel would make a lot of difference to what America cannot or can do. America itself is very resourceful. But I think the real issue is the domestic political compulsions within America. As you know, there is a very large Jewish community, close to about 4 or 5 million people who live in America, and they exercise a lot of clout.
The Trump administration led to renewed warmth in the Israeli-American relationship. In December 2017, Donald Trump formally recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital, a proclamation made by Israel in 1950. Trump moved the US embassy to Israel to Jerusalem on 14th May 2018. In November 2019, the Trump administration announced it no longer considers Israeli settlements in occupied territory inconsistent with international law, putting the US at odds with most of the international community. With inputs from Vipul Agarwal, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
So with this, it's a wrap on this edition of In Depth. Thank you so much for watching.